If you're getting calls at your law firm, but you're not converting them to clients, you need today's video, so get your pen and paper ready. Most lawyers focus on getting leads, but not what happens after you get the lead, and that's what we need to focus on today. I'm Darcel Lobo, a solo attorney who helps you open and build a successful law firm. Today I'm walking you through the exact client intake process your law firm needs, from the first contact to getting them as a signed client. Now let's talk about what happens before the potential client even contacts your law firm, because the intake is not just the phone call and that process. It starts with the first impression that your law firm gives. So let's start with the clarity of your website. Does a potential client see themselves in your website? Do they identify by having the problem that you solve? Does it appear to them that you can help them solve their problem? And are you speaking to that in your website? What problem do you solve? How can you help them solve that problem? That should be very clear on the homepage of your website. And then how to contact you. Do you know how many law firm owners I talk to? I look at their website and it is not clearly obvious how to contact them. Every page on your website, the top right-hand corner, needs to have a way to contact you, whether that's a phone number, an option to message you, to text you. A way to contact you needs to be on the top right-hand corner of every page of your website. If that is not the case, you need to pause this video and make that edit right now. And along these same lines, these potential clients need some direction. What do they need to do next? So again, that comes back to the contact you button. So calling your office, booking a consultation, filling out a form. You need to be giving that potential client direction as to what they need to do from your website. Your website really is kind of the storefront, the first spot that most potential clients are going to go in learning about you and how your law firm can help them. It needs to be very clear that you can help them, that you understand the problems that they're having, and you have the solution for what they need. You can do this in a wide array of ways. We need to develop the know, like, and trust factor with that potential client before they even met you. Your website is kind of the first place where we're going to do that for a lot of potential clients, unless you're also doing content, which I talked to you a lot about on this page, about creating, whether it's social media or short form videos or long form videos or a guide or a blog, to position yourself as the authority, as someone that this potential client is getting to know, to like, and to trust. That's why I love video for my law firm owners, to develop that, to help the client understand, become very clear that you are the right attorney for them, again, before they've even contacted your office. And make sure you're looking at this from the potential client's perspective. It's very easy to kind of think about it from your perspective as the lawyer, as the law firm owner, but think about it from the potential client's perspective. Are you someone that you would want to hire if you were in their position? Does your law firm appear to be one that they can trust with their legal issue? For a lot of your clients, if you have a consumer-facing practice, you are the first lawyer that they've ever had to go to with a problem. That's quite scary and quite intimidating. So how can we make it less scary? How can we show that, yes, you're a lawyer, but you're also a human being? You're one that they can trust. You're one that they can look to for guidance and expertise. And you're the one to guide them out of the problem that they're currently having. Now, if you're here to improve your intake process, maybe you're just starting out as a solo and you need to build out an intake, or maybe you've been a solo for a while and you know that your law firm needs some areas and improvements, it needs some tweaks. Make sure you download my free guide below for you. That is the 7 mistakes that law firms owners make and how to avoid them. It's a free guide. I want to make sure that you get that so you can learn from me as a law firm owner what I've seen, what I've seen other law firm owners make, and make sure you don't make those same mistakes. All right, let's continue on. Now let's talk about the first point of contact a potential client has with your law firm, because the first response that they get from your law firm can really make or break that conversion. So for some of my law firm owners, speed can be very important for them and their law firm. And so we want to make sure the potential client can take action right away. Maybe that means booking an appointment with you. Maybe that means filling out a form. Maybe that means they're getting a free guide from your office for some initial direction and answering some FAQs. We want to make sure there's some kind of action item that potential client can take immediately. Now, you may not be available for a consultation immediately, and that's fine. That's okay. But we want to make sure there's some kind of action item that the potential client can do immediately for that instant kind of gratification, satisfaction that they are taking action on the problem that they have. For some law firms, there is some urgency needed for different practice areas, especially like criminal defense, personal injury, where there is true urgency. And so you want to make sure your firm is structured to be able to handle that type of urgent matters. For other practice areas, there may not be such a sense of urgency. And so they don't need a consultation right away, but they do need the ability to contact you, to make an appointment, to get information, and a relatively fast response time to be able to do so. Now let's talk about the actual intake when they do contact your office. First, the question is, who's doing the intake? Is it yourself? Is it an assistant? Do you have a virtual receptionist? So figuring out who that person is going to be who's actually doing the intake. And then while you want to collect data at that initial intake, let's be very mindful of what you actually do or don't need and how many questions you're asking that potential client. How long is the form that they're having to fill out if there is a form online to complete? We don't want to have them completing a 5-page intake form before they've even decided to hire you or not. Like, that's going to be a bit overwhelming and going to turn some people away. So what basic information do you need? Of course, like their name, their contact info, and an idea of what the issue is. You're going to want to be able to do a conflict check for your practice. And then also, like, depending on the practice areas, there may be some instant kind of eliminators. Like for me in my bankruptcy practice, if they file a bankruptcy 2 years ago, they don't qualify to file again. So I would want to know that right away for a bankruptcy practice. Or if you make YouTube content for your law firm, like I do for my law firm, I want to know, are they a Washington State resident? So the YouTube channel can attract people from all over the world, but mainly across the country, and I'm only licensed in Washington State. So I want to know if they contact our office for their estate plan, I've got to make sure they actually are residents of Washington State. That's a kind of a quick eliminator for me in my law firm to not waste the client's time and not waste my time if I can't even help them. So figure out, what do you absolutely need to know at this intake phase of the process. Let's also touch on tone here, because if you are having someone else do your intake, whether it is a receptionist or if it is your paralegal or an assistant, we want to make sure that it's professional but also has a human tone to it. And so I tell my law firm owners, when they are hiring for a position, you can teach someone the legal skills they need to know for your practice and how to fill out different forms or prepare different motions or do different legal aspects. But there are some skills that you can't really teach, especially when it comes to customer service and communication. And so you want to make sure that the person who's doing the intake has the skills that you're looking for in that kind of person, because these people are the first point of contact with your law firm for this potential client. And for a lot of our law firms, the potential client is going through a really difficult time. They're having probably one of the biggest hardships they've ever had in their life. And we want to make sure who's ever doing that intake and having that first point of contact with that potential client is able to communicate with that potential client in a way that is reassuring and instills a vote of confidence in contacting the firm, right? And that they just have the communication skills that are necessary for helping clients at that point in time at the intake phase. Along the same lines, a lot of my law firms will use some form of AI or bots, like a chat bot on their website. For a lot of practices, that can work. I personally don't like that. I don't like it myself as a customer when I'm contacting any kind of professional or even not professional, any kind of business. I hate dealing with the bot. And so Just be mindful of that when you are integrating tech into your law firm, as far as kind of what the tone is, what you want the experience to be for your law firm. Again, for a lot of my law firm owners, the bots work great for a chat bot to give the client some instant answers or some guidance. So if that works for your firm, great. I don't have one. I don't love it. And so I just don't use it as a part of my firm. Now, we use technology in my firm, but not in that way. I'm very mindful of the client experience in contacting my firm, and I never want it to feel like it's not human. Now, we've talked about kind of that intake phase, and we also want to touch on this kind of pre-consultation filtering and filtering people out who are not a good fit for your law firm for one reason or another, because not every lead should become a consultation. Again, we don't want to waste your time. We don't want to waste the client's time either, right? If it's not going to be a good fit, if you can't help for whatever the reason may be. And so for a lot of my law firms, using some kind of intake or questionnaire is a great way to do that filtering. Again, it should not be overly burdensome, but it should give you the information that you need to identify those instant eliminators when they're not a good fit. So you're going to want to pre-qualify on things like practice area, maybe budget expectations. So in my law firm, a big part of my practice is estate planning. We are very transparent about our fees and kind of the ranges or starting prices. We tell people that up front. That's in our estate planning guide that we give to everyone before a consultation. So when they come to a consultation, there's not a sticker shock as to the price for our estate planning services. So consider doing that. Now, a lot of law firms choose to hide their pricing and not put it online. That's fine. I know it can turn some people off to have the pricing available, but also, like, I'm not striving to be the cheapest law firm in town. So if somebody is shopping for an estate planning attorney and they want the cheapest in town, they can see my fees and know that I'm not the cheapest in town. And if that's their number one decision maker, then my firm is not going to be the right firm for them. And again, no need to waste their time, no need to waste my time if they already know that our services are not within their budget. So I encourage you to consider providing information about pricing. If it's not going to be on your website, maybe in that initial guide that you send to a lead about working with your office, what to expect, what services you offer, the process, maybe you have pricing in that guide as well. And then also you're going to want to look at the client's timeline, right? If their matter is urgent and you don't have the capacity to assist with urgent matters, then maybe they're being referred out immediately and not, again, spending time booking a consultation and having a consultation with you if you can't help them on the timeline that they're looking for. And so we let everyone know up front about the timeline of working with our office, how long it takes to get your estate planning drafts ready. Like if you need an estate plan next week because you're going out of the country, we're not going to be able to help you because right now we have a 3 to 4 week turnaround time for estate planning drafts. And so I want to make sure people know that. Or in my bankruptcy practice, when I used to do more bankruptcy, if somebody's calling me on a Thursday and their foreclosure auction is Friday morning, I'm not going to be a good fit. I cannot accommodate that timeline. And so you need to figure out if your practice has one where time can be an issue or urgency can be an issue. You want to know what you can or cannot accommodate. And that way, if somebody contacts your office with an urgent need that you cannot assist on their timeline, that again, we're not spending time booking a consult when it's not going to be a good fit. We also want to set expectations before the consultation. Is it a paid consultation? Is it a free consultation? How long is the consultation? What do they need to bring to the consultation? Right, we want to maximize the use of that time during a consultation. So ensuring that the client knows what to expect, what to bring, how much time they have, what it costs. Make sure they know that up front so they can be best prepared for the consultation. And again, make sure we're having a good use of that time that you have with them. Also, in your practice, if you're new to your practice as far as practicing as an attorney, you may not know this quite yet, but if you've been practicing for a couple of years or a number of years, you know what your red flags are when it comes to new clients. You want to be very clear on what those red flags are and not even have consultations with somebody who meets your red flags. Don't put them on your calendar. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of their time. And then if you do take them on and you overlook the red flags during that relationship, you are going to regret it. You are going to have to maybe terminate that relationship. You're going to procrastinate on that case. You're going to delay because you look past the red flags when you know that you shouldn't have done that. So whoever's doing intake at your office should know what the red flags are so they can preemptively send that potential client somewhere else and not put them on your calendar, not consume that time when it's not going to be a good fit because you know what the red flags are and the client is already showing those red flags. And I think for a number of us, we can think of when we've taken a client on when we know that we shouldn't have. When we saw the red flags, but we decided to overlook them for whatever the reason may be. We have learned from that. You may have been burned by that. So let's not keep doing that anymore. Now let's talk about the actual consultation yourself, whether you're doing that in person, if you're doing that through Zoom, if you're doing that by a phone, however you do that consultation, this is going to apply. Now remember that every consultation is for a client conversion, not just for legal analysis, right? We want to convert them to a client. So we're going to structure that consultation. Make sure you're giving them time to tell their story. Now this should not be a 2-hour consultation, right? As you practice law for longer and longer and do more and more consultations, you'll get very good at this. But we want to make sure the client has an opportunity to tell their story because for most clients at that point, they want to be heard. They want someone to listen to what has happened to them, what their experience has been. So make sure you're creating space for that in the consultation and not just you talking the whole time. You want to make sure you're asking strategic questions. This goes along the lines of what questions you're asking before the consultation as far as intake. What do you need to know? You need to be clear on what you need to know during that consultation and what information you need to get from that client. Also, you're going to be explaining how you can help and how you can solve their problems. Let's make sure during the consultation that we are focusing on the outcomes, the possibilities. Now, you cannot guarantee a certain result, right? But what is possible? What do things look like? The clients don't want to just hear about the law, what the statute provides, what the case research shows, right? But just kind of what the options are. They don't really care too much about how the sausage is made, if that makes sense. Be very clear on the next steps after the consultation. You are this client's guide. You are giving them the roadmap, so make sure that they know about the scope of your services, timelines, fees, what to expect, what they can do to help move their case along, whatever homework you have for them. Make sure that they know what's next after the consultation. During your consultations, confidence matters. The clients have already been looking online, talking to friends, talking to family, trying to figure this out on their own, and they come to you looking for that clarity, looking for that guidance. So you need to be assured that you are giving that to them during the consultation and letting them know that you are taking the lead and helping them with where they want to go. And just make sure you're not over-explaining legal theories and laws and again case studies. Like, we want to guide them with decision making, and that's what they're looking for in you as their lawyer. Now let's talk about wrapping up the consultation. You want to make it easy to say yes. So when it comes to an engagement agreement, that should be very clear, and it should be set up for e-signing if you're doing this remote so they can sign it on the spot. Same with payment. If you were taking a retainer deposit or a flat fee up front, they should be able to pay immediately. If you do not have an online payment option, you need one immediately. I recommend LawPay. That's what I use. I think that's what most of my lawyers use for taking legal payments. And LawPay can handle trust deposits as well as operating account deposits. And they know how to charge those appropriately to not get you in trouble with your bar association. So make sure you have an online payment option. And then what happens after the consultation? The client should know. They should know what to expect, when to hear from you, what they need to do. There should be some follow-up after that consultation, whether you are sending a summary email and next steps, or if you're someone from your team is doing so. They want to know that they haven't just signed and paid and then they're just lost among your other clients. Like there should be continuing attention and next steps and directions for them, and setting those expectations so they know, okay, like for my firm, it's going to be 3 to 4 weeks for drafts. They know that already, and they're not wondering if we forgot about them or when they'll get their estate plan. They've already been told up front what to expect. And remember, your onboarding process for your new clients, that's going to set the tone for the entire experience with your law firm. And so if they know what to expect going forward, and you follow through what you say you would do, then they know to expect that from you going forward as their lawyer. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Remember, intake starts before the potential client has contact with your office. If you're not doing a whole lot to convert what would be a cold lead to at least a warm, if not hot lead, you need to change that. When I say that, what do I mean? I'm talking about your blogs, your FAQs, social media, content, videos, whatever you're putting out to develop that know, like, and trust factor. That is how you're converting what would be a cold lead to a warm lead or a hot lead. If you're not doing much in that area, you need to change that. You want to make sure you have structure to your onboarding process, and before the intake, during consult, after consult, there should be a structure there. We want to make sure we're filtering all the leads that come through to our office, identifying red flags and not taking those on. Making sure you are leading your consultation with intention, that you are guiding them, that you are giving clarity, and that they are assured that they made the right decision to hire your office. And making sure you have a smooth onboarding. After they've signed and have paid you, what's next? Make sure you communicate with them and make sure you follow through on what you say you would do. If you're just starting out in building your law firm, and you want to figure out how to get your first 10 clients fast, make sure you watch this next video where I cover that for you in detail, how to get your first 10 clients as a new law firm owner. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.